So the guest that is joining me today on Filme Shilmy, honestly, I'm so short of words because I am genuinely so like honestly, I think his craft has really touched our hearts over the years, and there is a certain wit and effervescence that he brings to all his characters, and he really is no less than a legend. And I think any introduction I give falls short of it, so I'm just gonna go straight into it and welcome warmly Saurabh Shukla ji for our session today. So thank you so much, Saurabh sir, for joining us, and
Thank
it's
you so much.
it's really a
Thank you.
privilege as well because I believe you've not done any Zoom interviews in the UK before. So this is like a really big moment for us. So thank you so much for setting out time for this and really sort of coming on board for this. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I must tell you, yes, it is my very first podcast in UK, and I'm very happy. I'm very excited to talk to you, and I'm looking forward for this podcast. Thank
Oh,
you.
absolutely, sir. No, absolutely. Well, look, sir, I think it's remarkable. Within a matter of days, you've been into one of them you've helmed also, but two formidable titles on the OTT space. You had Suresh Triveni's Subedaar, where you're sort of playing the buddy of Anil Kapoor after a long time, and it was so refreshing and nostalgic for all of us to see. And then, of course, you were at the helm of Jab Khuli Kitab on Prime Video, on Z5, sorry, on Z5 Global. And I think it's so amazing how you've been a part of two narratives, which in a way have very earthy feel, but there is a sense of escapism attached to them in many odd ways. I think for you, when you kind of like being part of these two very like sort of diverse but yet kind of earthy titles, which also has a bit of escapism aspects to it as well. Uh, how do you, as an artist, kind of look at the sort of work that you have been doing of late, and especially with the way OTT platforms really provide a medium for storytelling to be told in all its glory?
I'll not go into the analysis because the analysis is not my job. I react to the work which I do instinctively as an artist, and then I uh, become a part of that, and I put my heart and soul in that. So first of all, I'm very happy. What has changed in last couple of years? First, we had the traditional theatrical market, as we call it, the cinema market, and it had its own rules and everything. And this was the same thing all over the world, actually. And then this thing came called OTT, which I think started with Netflix only. They started this whole thing, and so they also needed stories which was not told in the traditional cinema market. And so a lot of new stories or new storytellers could find a platform which is OTT, and it straight away goes to a much larger audience, because in theater you physically have to project the film in each theater, and only a number of people can come and watch it.
Right.
So that's a very happy situation. Subedar, when I got the offer for Subedar, so Suresh Triveni, the director of the film,
Yeah.
I always had very high regards for him. Very beautiful filmmaker, and I got an offer from him that was more than enough for me. Then he explained me the film, and he explained me my character. And an actor really can't ask more than his favorite director and a good role, and obviously a decent amount of money,
Right.
and a great platform to put the whole project. And I absolutely had great fun in working in Subedar, because Anil Kapoor is also known to me since a long time,
Yeah.
and he's much senior to me in the industry, but he considers me as a friend, which is kind enough and encouraging enough for me. And as a matter of fact, for Subedar, when I got the offer from Suresh that very evening, I got a call from Anil, and
Right.
yeah, he I picked up the phone and he said, Saurabh, तेरे को एक फिल्म ऑफर होगी. He didn't know कि ऑफर हो चुकी है. तो he said कि तेरे को एक फिल्म ऑफर होगी और तू मना मत करना.
Hmm.
So I said, I have heard the film and I'm not going to say no to it at any cost. And I truly had wonderful days in working in that film with such big, let's say, I don't know what is the right word, the entourage of great actors,
Right. Yes.
yeah, the all the actors who are there, whether they are for smaller roles or for bigger roles, but they all are very competent and very good actors. So it's a joy to work as an actor when you have great co-stars.
Hmm.
So that was that. And Suresh became a friend while we were shooting the film, and I admired him more for his craft and his vision in Subedaar. As far as the other film goes, which released, by the way, this released Subedaar released on
Right.
5th of March, which happens to be my birthday.
Yeah.
And and on fifth night, the film which I wrote and directed, which is called Jab Khuli Kitaab, released on Z5.
Right.
That's a very special film for me. It's very close to my heart. People are not going to see me on screen because I have written and directed the film. But I really am fortunate that I have directed two amazing legends.
Hmm.
One is Pankaj Kapoor and one is Dimple Kapadi, and they have been absolute joy. I couldn't have asked more than this. So it was such a wonderful journey for me. And of course, I mean, I wrote the story, so I liked the story, so I wanted to make it as a film.
Right.
But it's something uh, for a filmmaker. It's not enough that you have thought of a story which you like.
Yeah.
you know what is more joyful is when people start believing in your story and they start putting their efforts. So starting from Samir Nair, who heads Applause
Yeah.
and is a wonderful man, he just knew what the film is right in the beginning. He just heard the idea. He said, Saurabh, let's make this as a film. And he said, initially, he told me that. He said, listen, we don't care whether you get us sellable names or not in any department. The
Hmm.
point is, please find people who are right for the film. And that was the kind of belief that really encourages you. And then, of course, Jab Khuli Kitab got made again. Wonderful days we had, amazing. I really thank my stars and I thank God that I got this chance, and I've got this chance many a times in my life. In many films, I've got, like, starting from Bandit Queen to Satya to Barfi, to Raid. All these are very memorable films and time for me. The
Correct.
only thing is that now this is I've made films, but this film of mine has somehow touched the hearts of people. And now they're pouring their love. And I can't tell you how happy I am. On one hand, I have Subedaar. On one hand, I have Jab Khuli Kitab. So, I mean, I think I'm on a big high. Right?
Oh, good. And as you should be, and well deserved as well, might I add, to be very honest. And I'm very happy to hear this. But I think, what I find very interestingly in common about both the titles is that dysfunctionality is a very big part of both of them as an undercurrent theme, right? Like you've got Subedar has not just about dysfunctional society, and power hierarchies, but it's also spotlights a dysfunctional relationship between a daughter and a father. And then obviously
Yes.
in Jab Khuli Kitab, it's literally about messy relationships. Um,
Yes.
which actually comes across, when initially when you see the posters and you see the trailer, it feels like a very kind of Is that like it's got like this old school charm, if I may say
Yes.
so, that kind of feels like very cute, very warm. But then as soon as you watch the film and you see
I'll
how
give you the right, I'll give you the right word, the candy floss film.
yeah, candy floss film, and ironically also because the sort of color palette you use for it as
Yes.
well, because it gives it
Yes.
that whole airy feeling. Um,
Yes.
but actually, when you watch the film and you discover what happens with the relationships and the dynamics, it is absolutely chaotic. It's chaos, and I think
Yeah.
it's interesting how in a way, as an actor and as a director with both these titles, you have explored chaos. But yet you do it in a way which is with wit and humor. Humor is a very
Yeah.
big part of your life, I
Yeah.
think. But I want to know behind that humor. I want to understand the human behind that humor.
So I can answer it in multiple ways. I'll just tell you that one is that, being an artist, when you start aspiring for when you see great work and when you start aspiring for great work, you realize that life is not made of one color,
True.
right? Life has all the colors present all the time. It's just that one color takes the foreground and the other colors go in the background. And that's how it becomes a very happy situation or becomes a sad situation. But sadness runs through behind the happiness. Life is like that. So, as an artist, I have always liked films which are not of one tone. So, yes, there is a tragic incident which has happened. Now, everybody is tragic. Then the visuals are tragic. Then the music is tragic. Then the dialogues are tragic. Then, after a point, you start saying, hello, enough, boss. I mean, understood. It's tragic. But show me some life. Because life, I'll give you one very simple example.
Yeah.
Um, I saw a photograph a couple of months back.
Hmm.
It was a beautiful photograph. It came on social media. It was in Gaza. There was a bathtub which was half broken but filled with water and children playing in that.
Oh.
That's what life is.
Oh.
Life doesn't stop,
Yeah.
it flourishes, everywhere. That's one. Secondly, I'll take a little time and I'll try and
Please.
explain you
No, no, please do.
about.
Yes.
It's very important. So I'm not a very spiritual book reader person. Okay, I don't. Okay, I don't get into that. But I happened to read a book by Rajneesh,
Hmm.
who's later called Osho.
Hmm.
Now that book is a book by Rajneesh, but it is not about spiritualism. It is actually a collection of 5,000 jokes because he had disciples from all over the world. So wherever he found whomsoever told him a joke, he collected that and made a book called Take It Seriously.
Right.
It's a wonderful book. It's divided into chapters. So it has masculine jokes, it has feminine jokes, it has political jokes, it has asexual jokes. All kinds of chapters are there.
Hmm.
There is one very interesting thing in the beginning,
Right.
which actually will define humor. He said that when I'm in North India and I hear a joke, it is usually about Sardars. So
Hmm.
सरदारों के बारे में बड़े जोक्स होते थे पहले, है
जी.
ना? उनका प्रोटैगनिस्ट सरदार होता.
जी.
But the interesting thing is that I hear the same joke in Pakistan, and the character instead of a sardar becomes Pathan. And the even more interesting thing that the same joke exists actually in England, but the character becomes Irish. They
Hmm.
laugh at Irish people, and the same joke is in US, and they laugh at a Texan, but essentially the joke remains the same. The story of the joke remains the same. Now he said that this raises a question that if this joke is everywhere, who actually created that joke?
Hmm.
And then he historically goes into the history. He says that most of these jokes, 90% of the jokes, you will find in Jewish history.
Oh, wow.
So they are created by Jews.
Mm,
And an interesting observation, he says that why Jews created so many jokes.
mm,
He said, because historically, time and again, they went through so much of volatile time
of course.
that the sadness could have killed them if they didn't laugh it out.
Mm,
So humor generates from a deep, deep sadness. You can't survive. As a life, you have to live. So, how do you survive? And I'm telling you this, if somebody is in real pain, you ask him, how are you, brother? And he says, couldn't have been better. Yeah. It's all done. You know, you try and laugh it out.
mm,
You try and laugh it off. That is what is humor for me. And that's a very basic in my work.
right.
That I don't see things, even when I approach characters, I just don't approach with one single layer. I try to find that if he's a human being, somewhere he would be laughing, yeah. Somewhere he would be wise, somewhere he would be bad also. The same things so the dysfunctionality, and I'm saying it because you live in England,
Mm, of
right? But you're from Indian origin, right?
course. Yeah.
Yes. So my brother lives abroad. He has lived, I mean, more than half of his life he has lived abroad.
Right.
He's an NRI.
Mm,
Okay. He lives in Southern Africa. When I talk to my brother, I realize he carries some kind of a calendar art picture about India.
mm,
He's not in touch with the reality of India. India is still, I mean, India is not what I don't want to name it, but some films which project
mm.
the happy Indian family. Everything is not hunky dory, boss.
No, it's not.
It's not. We have same amount of complication and oddness and absurdity and everything. And that is why when I was writing this film, though in the very core of it, it's a very candy floss story, yes,
Mm,
because what it says at the end of it is a sweet thing and not a destructive thing. So that's why there was a conscious decision of projecting the film first like that. But then when you watch the film, then it's a real film. People are loving, but that doesn't mean that they're not complicated.
exactly. Exactly. Or flawed for that matter as well.
Yeah.
No, so beautiful. And I think thank you so much for articulating that. And I think that's what makes Jab Khuli Kitab so distinct as well because like I said, it has that candy floss old school charm. Like for example, at times it reminded me of Masoom for some weird reason, but at times it kind of reminded me of Masoom. Then at times it reminded me of this Pakistani film called Cake that I watched and Kapoor and Sons. So it's like
Yeah.
it's it's and I'm not trying to compare, obviously I'm not trying to compare at all, but as a viewer,
Yeah.
this is how one feels, especially when you've
Yeah.
consumed so much cinema, because there's a familiarity, but yet you don't know them at all. And I think that's very symbolic because that's exactly how the family members felt. Um, and I think I've got to talk a bit about just a little bit about the casting here because I think there's so many other layers that I do want to address.
Okay.
Um,
Just sorry. Just before we go into the casting of the film,
yes,
I'll just point out one thing here.
yeah,
You took the name of Masoom, right?
right.
I saw Masoom, and I'm an avid fan of that film. And as a matter of fact, my first feature film director was Shekhar
Take a
Kapoor,
Kapoor, exactly.
and he was the one who brought me into this industry. This is what also when I started my career, I learned it from Shekhar. Shekhar in that dark film, Bandit Queen, he used to search within that what is the humor. He didn't want to humor it. It's
Mm,
not that. But within that life, what is the absurd humor? You know, he really used to give weightage to that, and I learned it from him. In
Mm,
fact, as a matter of fact, for cinema, he was the first one to point it out to me.
right.
And so yeah, now we can go into the
No, no,
cast.
that's no, it's beautiful. No, no, thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important actually because I feel like these foundations are so key. I think which really then shapes you as an artist, afterwards as
Yes.
well. But look, I think it's really interesting. I mean, Pankaj sir, I'm not sure if you've worked with him as an actor. Maybe I'm not sure if you've worked with him before as an actor or before, but I know Dimple Ma'am, I think you might have worked with in Luck by Chance, because she was in that film as well. So I'm not sure if you, yeah,
Yeah. So yes, Dimple Ma'am was there in that film, but we never had a scene together, so we never
right.
met.
You never actually
As
met.
a matter of fact, physically, I never met these two people before I actually took my script and gave it to them.
Oh wow.
That's the
Unbelievable.
very first time we interacted and talked. So, though I always knew Pankaj Saab, and he knew my work, Dimple Ma'am knew my work. Of course, I knew Dimple Ma'am, but we never met.
Right.
And it's purely on the basis of they read the script and they said, "We are on, we are doing it." So that was really wonderful.
Yeah, and it's incredible how you got them as well on board. And I think also for I think Pankaj Kapoor sir, because like I've always mentioned as well, that I think what I've always found very fascinating is the two energies that come together. Because I think Pankaj sir has always played characters that are very brooding, that are in a way, going through some sort of emotional conflict or darkness, and trying to grapple with that, and make reason of it. And in all of his characters, I felt that vibe. And then obviously Dimple Ma'am has always had restraint. I think restraint is the best way to describe her. The one who endures very silently, but then also has a strong agency. Like in fact, on many occasions, I remember watching Patiala House, and
Mm.
and there was this one scene where, uh, I think Akshay Kumar is coming, and obviously like बाप और बेटे के बीच में कुछ हुआ है, and she basically just was tries to hold that hand, and he just lets it go, and that is exactly what Dimple Ma'am represents here in this film also. It's that sense of trying to grasp everything, but then also release and restraint, and the way the two energies of their traits as actors really, really get that due diligence and that due credit as well as a filmmaker. So I would love to know actually a bit more about I think also the technical aspects as well, because like we said, the color palette is very airy, it's very light, but at the same time you also do have your darker sort of colors that do come in. Like there's this one sequence, I think it's just before the climax, where for example, the characters are literally like the camera moves from different rooms, for example, and that symbolizes how lonely everyone is despite living in a big family. So I'd love to just get into the whole technical aspect as well, because I think I find that so fascinating.
Okay, so first of all, let me start with the actors. Interesting thing was, Pankaj Sahab has done number of characters, and nobody can even doubt his talent. He's amazing. But the interesting thing, I think this is for the very first time he has played a character like this. Gopalji, though, you see, it's a strange thing. Why it's a strange, why people find it new in this film
Yeah,
is that your protagonist is so loving, but one hurt takes him to the absurdity of everything.
yeah,
He becomes absolutely absurd. He says, I don't care, you die. But before dying, I need this divorce because I don't want to be your widower after you have left. I want a stamp. And it's bizarre. I mean, somebody is dying and you're saying, okay, fine, you die, but give me the divorce, that kind of a thing. It makes it funny, absurd, and understandable because he is basic. He's not able to handle the betrayal.
right.
And interestingly, the man who has been wronged, if you see the film, the man who has been wronged also turns out to be wrong. I mean, he was not so right. And the woman who was wrong was not so wrong, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how life is. I mean, we and I very strongly feel that number of times this has happened, that when I have been wronged in my life and I react violently on that situation, to that person, on that person, I realize that I end up being wrong at the end of it because I was violent. So it doesn't give me any right to become violent against somebody who has wronged me,
Mm.
you know. So things like that. So I mean, and these actors, they really understood, they really played it. Pankaj Saab has, the Gopalji's character has a gamut of emotions, you
Yeah.
know, from a quirky one to, he's also protecting his wife. At the same time, he wants divorce, but at the same time, he cannot hear any wrong thing about her, you know. So that's a very interesting conflicted character. And Dimple Man, day one, understood the character so well that I will not giving any spoiler for the audience, but the dialogue that where she says कि उसके साथ मेरा एक पल गुजरा था,
Mm.
लेकिन जिंदगी किसके साथ गुजारी, आपके साथ, मेरे 50 साल का सच आप है. Now
Mm.
this line I have not written. It is purely improvised and said by Dimple Kapadia. So she has added into the script so much that you can understand their understanding. As far as the technical part goes, so the technical part is, one is the visual part of it and the sound part of it. So the visual part, we deliberately decided that I wanted very beautiful magic realism kind of a world, which is like a fairy tale. So the whole idea was that in fairy tales, there are uh, there are things which are darker. There is sadness. Not everything is hunky dory. That was the very first premise. And also, Anuj, I'll just quickly say it here.
Mm.
While writing this script, I read a line from Rumi.
Oh,
रूमी
right.
की एक लाइन है
Mm.
कि light always enters through the crack in the wall,
Mm.
and that became the very basis for this film. That if you see their relationship, it was like a perfect wall.
Yeah.
No cracks, nothing. But the day it cracked and it started collapsing, the best thing which happened, that there is a light which entered in their relationship, which was the light of truth. Because then after that, and it says that at a point, that now there is nothing to hide between us. It's only truth. So how wonderful is that if two people can live with truth and there is nothing to hide, and how
Mm.
strong a relationship it will be, you know. So visually we chose a very beautiful locale, we chose the colors. There was an old world charm. Yes, it was the story of old people, and I am in love with that colonial look
Mm.
which is there in this film. And the music, as I initially said in this interview, is not a make you cry music.
Right.
Mostly it's jazz. You know, the bass of the songs, if you hear, it's jazz. It's jumpy. It has its sadness, but at the same time, it's so, while the film is moving, you're going through what the characters are going through, a gamut of emotions. You're also going through the gamut of emotions through these different things, and not one color or one emotion. That music is in the same emotion, and the dialogue is in the same emotion, and the characters are also in the same emotion. No. So everything has its own this thing, and that's how I think it really feels nice. It felt nice to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so vivid, honestly. And I think it really does explain a lot, actually, that films often, like you mentioned, the whole Rumi sort of text being a really important core of your script. I think that really just goes to show that sometimes, yes, there's numerous um observations and inspirations, but really sometimes it is just that one thing that really hits the core of your soul that really gets the whole scene going, I think, as an artist. And I think that's something that I really look up to. I really love the fact that because I loved the actor who was in Ahan is in this film as well.
Yes.
And I think what I really beautifully love is that having a character that has Down syndrome, right, or suffers from that, but yet, um, it is not there just to kind of in a pitiful light. It's not there to kind of romanticize the grief and the pain that they're going through, or to kind of, it's very human. And I think in a way it also adds a little vulnerability to the relationships. In fact, it almost feels like the son is he's like a silent witness to everything. He's like the voice of innocence amidst this chaos that's unfolding. And I think it's so beautiful. Even that whole Shadiwala sort of sequence as well was so beautiful. And honestly, I could not stop crying, especially when you had the slow-mo going to the reactions, and it was so, so beautiful. And I think that somehow again represents you sort of, sir, because I feel like what you have a lot in you, even when you smile, the sort of the persona that you carry, I feel like you have a lot of compassion and empathy within you. And I think that seems to really translate into the work that you do as well. Is that compassion? It's like, for example, even in Barfi, I mean, I cannot even forget that iconic chase sequence. I mean, it's literally,
Yes.
it's so brilliant. And again, even there as well, you had a lot of sympathy and empathy as well for someone who obviously had a physical, sort of who was physically challenged as well. So talk to me about this empathy and compassion aspect, especially in relation to Jab Khuli Kitab. And it would be nice to kind of just understand that more as well from your perspective.
So I can't really say much about it because I don't analyze myself. But I know one thing very clearly. Whatever you do, I mean, be it sports, be it what you talk, what you read, what you or in terms of artists, when you create, you end up telling your worldview.
Hmm.
At the end of it, there is nothing more you can tell. So I always say stories are just excuses to tell your own world, to tell your own worldview. And that's how I see life. Like I see it with humor. I acknowledge sadness in it, but I'm very positive. I never like a ending of a film which is hopeless,
Hmm.
because I think life is not hopeless. You know, there can be hopeless situations, but if you end and if the end of a conversation is hopeless, then it's a very dissatisfying, very troubling uh, thing for me, and it's a personal choice. I'm
Hmm.
not saying there are great films made with hopeless endings. I mean, there is no hope at the end of it. There are great films. I'm not denying that, but that's not how I see life.
Exactly.
That's not how I live life. And there is a great influence of my own family, my partner, my wife, and my friends, my parents, and my extended family from my wife's side, my in-laws. So there is a whole, and strangely, I'll tell you,
Hmm.
I am a product of a nuclear family.
Hmm.
So it was very strange that in those times, my father's time, our family was a very unique family because we were nuclear family. Father, mother, my elder brother, and me. And I knew no relatives of mine, neither from mother's side nor from father's side. Not because of anything, mother's side, because they were all in Assam.
Hmm.
And Assam was a very different place from Delhi. We used to live in Delhi.
Right.
So once in a year, we used to go there and meet them, by the way. From father's side, also the same thing. So, as a matter of fact, I have no idea about the family construction, the family structures.
Yeah.
I only came to know about family structures. मुझे तुम बुआ बोलो और मासी बोलोगे तो मैं कंफ्यूज हो जाता हूँ कि यार इसका क्या हुआ, क्या मतलब क्या हुआ इसका. सो आई एम एक्चुअली लाइक दैट. बट व्हेन आई मेड दिस फिल्म, how did I make this film? It's seeing friends, families, the society where I grew up, the families I met, my extended family, or some people I met in my mother's side or whatever. So a small little reflections of that made it possible for me to imagine this Nautiyal family. you know
Mm,
so I would say that this either, thanks for saying it, that it's compassion and everything. I don't know whether I'm compassionate or not. I just try and follow my instinct, and I want to be a certain person.
mm.
Yes, in art, as an education in art, right in the beginning, I came to know and I follow that. Sentimentality is not the point in art. It's the empathy. Sympathy doesn't work in
True.
art.
Absolutely.
Empathy works.
Yeah.
you know that's the clear difference. So is it, can you empathy, so you create a piece of art with which people can empathize. They don't have to sympathize, because sympathy is subjective. Empathy is a much vaster term
Yeah.
you know
100%. No, absolutely. And it's interesting because they often say that art mirrors society and society mirrors art. It's like this whole catch-22 situation. But at the same time, I thought as artists, you also have the power to show a world that you think would be most appropriate, you know? I mean, everyone dreams of utopia in life, but unfortunately, we live in such dreadful times. I think dreadful is a very big understatement, but we're living in such difficult times where, you know, unfortunately, to have a dream of utopia almost feels impossible. And I think with films, you can kind of, in a way, show that alternate reality. And with art, you can show that. You can show a world that you think is far better, for example, than what the world is right now. I think that's the power of art, isn't it? Is to kind of have that sense of imagination, you know?
About utopia, everyone has always told me it does not exist, right? It does not. But the thing is that the world will not exist if the idea of utopia is not there. Understand that.
Interesting. Yeah.
If you kill the idea of utopia, this world will not survive.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like God,
Hmm.
that you don't see, you don't can't touch, you don't know. It's an imagination that you will meet him one day, or
Yeah, it's faith. Faith, exactly. Right.
faith. So similarly, utopia is like that. Utopia, if anybody tells you tomorrow, okay, listen, boss, you are living in an utopian world and that does not exist, great. It does not exist. But the idea of it has to exist for
Correct.
this world to be a better world.
For sure. No, absolutely. So beautifully said. Honestly, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Like, this is so lovely, sort of. So I cannot tell you enough. But okay, so I really I want to talk a bit about before because I want to talk about Subedaar as well because I think there's so much to really address there as
Yes,
well. So we're gonna
yes,
go into Subedaar just shortly. But I think another thing that I wanted to kind of highlight here is that a lot of your work kind of deal with they're almost satirical actually. I think the humor is dark humor, of course, self-deprecating as well. And I'm gonna address all of this self-deprecating, especially in today's industry context as well, very, very shortly, because it's a very big part of the shift that's happening. But at the same time, I feel like all your characters are in a way through humor they expose corruption and like sort of power hierarchies, and I think that is something which I find very fascinating. uh you know I feel like because you kind of began your career in the 80s, um with theater, right?
yes,
1984, I think, to be exact. You began with theater, and at that time, right, I think Doordarshan, a lot of the TV channels used to kind of, I think satire was a really big part. And there's also, let's not forget, you had Janibi Do Yaro, right, in that era as
yes,
well, which kind of
yes.
in a way made it super cool to kind of make films which are satires. um do you feel like somehow, because you've kind of evolved as an artist during that time, it's kind of had a bit of an instrumental intrinsic effect on you as an artist in actually choosing such roles because you've had that sort of exposure from an onset.
Yes, very true, and I will not deny this. That is one of the basic part of my training. Uh, and also, see, there's a logic to it. There's a thought behind that. Uh, when we were learning art and when we were practicing it and exploring it, we realized that the saddest of the things or the biggest of the criticism, you know, if it is done and said with humor,
Yeah.
it actually reaches the other person. So if I can humor you, if
Yeah.
I can make you laugh, I can tell you 50,000 problems you have, and you won't mind that. You might correct four or five of it from that, you know. But if I start aggressively accusing you that you have 50,000 problems, your ears will shut. You will never hear it. There will
Mm.
be a resistance. Correct?
Yeah.
So satire is not to criticize anyone or to put down anyone. It is basically the problems we have. And basically, I always believe very clearly that when I'm laughing or I'm creating humor in my work, most of it belongs to me. I'm laughing at myself. So when I'm laughing at a corrupt man,
Right.
understand that I know that I'm also corrupt.
Yeah.
Because in Bombay, when I start driving in the morning, I end up jumping the red light, the signal. So when I'm doing that knowingly, I'm also corrupt. Correct? I'm smaller corruption, but corruption is there. So it helps in understanding the psyche of a corrupt person, not judging him. Yes, judging the act
Hmm.
is right, not judging the person. So this has been the whole. I mean, it's a vast subject, but I will say yes, and all the classics and all the things which really inspired me, and the high quality art which I really feel is not there in your face, accusing you or violent. It has some artistic value to that. Like I'll give you one example. It's a term. So in French films,
Yeah.
um, many of the very violent scenes, I mean, older times, slightly older films,
Mm.
many of the very violent scenes, they did not shoot a close up or did not shoot a mid shot. They
Right.
did it in extreme long shots where you can hardly see the violence,
Yeah.
but that vastness and the stillness makes it even more violent.
Mm.
That's what I call the artistic expression or the artistic touch to it.
Right. No, I think it's honestly, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I think the way you've kind of said that as well, you've kind of played the judge in Jolly LLB, which obviously I think what got you the National Film Award in 20, like from the 2013 film, I believe.
Yes.
And then of course, you've done a raid, which is literally the definition of corruption, the role that you play, the character that you play, and I think that's something which I found very, very interesting. Now this actually leads me on to Subedaar, actually, because I think with Subedaar, it was a hat tip to so many filmmakers. And I said this to Suresh when I saw the film, is that, like Suresh has this tendency to kind of go with this icy gray and, sort of bluish kind of tones. That's very cold, like he did with Jalsa, for example. But
Yes.
Yapar, he goes almost very yellow. Like it's very yellow,
Yes.
brown, and very heavy. I think for you it must have been very nostalgic actually, because when you were shooting in the outskirts, the ravines that are there, you
Yeah.
know, Bandit Queen. It was literally like kind of had Bandit Queen Vala vibe.
Yeah.
At the same time, it also felt like he was almost hat tipping to, Joel Schumacher, for example, for films like Falling Down with Michael Douglas, where it, a man who is beaten by the system is
Yeah.
exhausted. At the same
Yeah.
time, it also reminded me of S. Shankar's Hindustani as well, Indian,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And it's just, there's so many different sort of filmmakers that he hat tips, but yet also it's so unique in its own voice. And
Yes.
I think that's the powerful thing about Subedaar. So I would love for you to actually for you to kind of walk me through all of that, because I think it's interesting, because when you have a certain filmmaker who is so, who has such a vision like Suresh, that must really make you feel so confident and also very comfortable, I think, as an actor, because you know that the director's he understands the assignment, well.
Okay. So, in the beginning of this interview, you were talking about when you were talking about my film, and you said that this could have gone this way or could have gone
Yeah.
that way, but it had its own path,
Yeah.
which was neither completely laughing it off and at the same time not absolutely completely a cry film. Similarly, Subedar is a fine example of a what a commercial film should be.
Yeah.
It
I
has no dearth. It has no dearth of art. It is a very artistic film, but at the same time, at the core, it is a known story, of a man suddenly flaring up, which not the same story, but Mr. Bachchan, when he
Yes.
came as a young, angry young man, you know. So, and we have Walking Tall, and we have other films, the names you said, that is all there, but it's that genre of a film and done very aesthetically. You see the beginning of Subedar. How beautiful is that?
Hmm.
It's that airplane flying and the kids are talking. "Okay, how do they shit in the plane? Does it fall or it doesn't fall?" And they are following the shadow of it. And within that, they are running through this place where they are mining the river, and the kid dies
Hmm.
because he
The
gets sucked
bulldozer.
into,
Yeah.
yeah, he gets sucked into that. So it's it also takes you to the reality, but telling a mass story, you know it doesn't shy away from that. So I would say ki, I am very lucky that I have been a part of this film, which I would, and I have seen in my childhood. I have seen all these films, which had action and everything, and I have been an avid fan of that.
Hmm.
But to work in a film which is artistically as rich
Yeah.
as the action is an amazing thing, and I think that Suresh has done wonders in that.
But if you remember, sort of, sir, so I just mentioned about self-deprecating humor and satire and all these aspects. And I feel like, humor was in a bit of under pressure, but now I feel like Hindi cinema is kind of revisiting the sort of self-deprecation humor genre now. Obviously we had Happy Patel earlier. Last year we had Bads of Bollywood, and I wouldn't say self-deprecating humor as such, but there were aspects of that, and obviously very, very beautifully done was One Two Cha Cha Cha, another really beautiful film that released recently. And it feels like Hindi cinema is finally kind of making truce with self-deprecating humor. I think question is why did it kind of wither away? And now that self-deprecating humor is back, could this now be a new wave of, let's just say, how we once had films like a Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, but more commercial and more pop culture-y in that sense as well?
So, one, I really hope that what you're saying is absolutely true, because what I see around and in my society, in the world where I live, and which does not only mean India, which also means because I'm in touch with the rest of the world,
Yeah.
humor is taking slightly back seat. You
Mm.
know, people are sensitive about being joked about or laughed about, or, things like that. It wasn't so much. I'll quickly give you an example.
Yeah.
Uh, as I was saying right in the beginning about Rajnish's book. So
Yeah.
when I was a child, my childhood was in Delhi.
Mm.
Okay. Now, I don't know how much you know Delhi, but
Mm. Mm.
uh, in my childhood, the jokes were about Sardars, as I said. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
they were about that. So we were, as kids, we were standing one day, और हमारे बगल में सरदार जी एक रहते थे, बुड्ढे सरदार जी थे.
Mm.
So I was telling a joke about a Sardar to
Mm.
my friends. I didn't realize he was standing right at the back. So I was telling the joke, and suddenly my friends tried to stop me. So I turned back and I looked at him and I said, Uncle, sorry, मैं तो ऐसी joke सुना रहा था. You know what he said?
What did he say?
He said, he said, कोई गल नहीं पुत्र, अगर हम नहीं होंगे तो तुम हंसोगे कैसे?
Oh.
And that was, this is what it's humor, jokes. They are a great this thing. It's like detox.
Mm.
You can detox by that. Now, what has happened that you can't now though it's quite evident in films that you cannot take a certain cast name, certainly in fact any cast name. So we are trying to, like, the villain cannot be whatever caste, because
Mm.
that caste will get up and say, listen, you're saying that we are villains.
Mm.
And I'm saying, I hope that, because humor really makes things right.
Mm.
We can be only best friends when we can laugh at each other. If we don't laugh at each other, or we are just cordial, or just goody goody to each other, we'll never open up our hearts.
Mm.
We'll never become friends. We'll just stay at a distance.
Yeah, it'll be
So,
surface level. Yeah.
yeah. Secondly, as I said, that humor has two kinds. One is that you laugh at yourself. The second is that you laugh at others. The second one is not a cool thing. Humor first, you have to laugh at yourself.
Mm.
It's a better humor. If I tell you things which are odd about me or absurd about me, you will find me amusing. But if I start laughing at you, you will find me insulting.
True. True.
That's what people have to understand. That's what that should be there. You know, humor should not hurt. It should it should it should be tender.
True. Actually, it's interesting you say this because my mom always tells me this and has told me this from a very onset that joke वही होता है जो आपको खुद हंसाता है और दूसरों को भी हंसाता है.
Correct.
And it should never be like one balance, like it never should be one way. It should always be,
Yeah.
balanced. Absolutely.
Uh,
Yes.
because you shouldn't laugh at others. You should laugh at first at yourself.
Yeah.
Then, yeah,
Yeah. No, absolutely. But so I mean, just to jog your kind of memory a little bit more and just to kind of get your insights about the industry and the way it's operating at the moment because I do feel like we've had such an influx of action films and it's great, don't get me wrong. I love a great action movie and I'm really happy with the success that they have been having. But it almost feels like society has forgotten, like you mentioned earlier in your response as well. Like people have forgotten how to laugh. Like I really miss the 2000s era of like Priyadarshan and Anis Bazmi films and David
yeah,
Oven movies. I mean, thankfully, we've got some films coming back from the filmmakers, said filmmakers, which is great. But वो जो एक vibe है ना, like I was just listening to Singis King music the other day, and I'm just like, यार, ऐसी फिल्में क्यों नहीं बनाते हम? Like, why is this not happening? I would love to know your insights as someone who has obviously worked on such films also, in your career, and also having worked here. What do you think it is that's kind of stopping filmmakers? Is it fear, to step out of what is the norm and what is working at the box office?
Okay, so I'll tell you. So the way I see it, and I'm no authority on this to analyze it, but there's always a flavor of the season. There's always a flavor of the season. You will see it. So there was one time when Mahesh Bhatt's all films were doing very well, and in that, infidelity was a subject which was, and horror, so महेश भट्ट साहब ने बहुत सारी बहुत अलग तरह 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 की फिल्में बनाई हैं,
Hmm.
रिलेशंस पे बहुत अच्छी फिल्में बनाई हैं, बट एट द सेम टाइम एक टाइम आया था जब उन लोगों ने राज और इस तरह की बहुत सारी फिल्में बनाई जो
जी.
बहुत हिट हुई. And everybody at that time started telling us artists that think of a horror film because that is what only works today.
Hmm.
Correct? Then, before that, there was an era of romantic films that everybody was saying कि नहीं यार romantic फिल्में ही बनाओ.
Hmm.
उससे पहले जब मिस्टर बच्चन was on the height, तो एक सिस्टम से लड़ता हुआ आदमी उसके ऊपर फिल्म बनाओ.
जी.
Then Satya came. Then these new filmmakers came who started exploring, realism and darkness and gritty stories and very good, very beautiful filmmakers. Now, what is happening is right now, you are seeing one palette of films because they are working. And so it has not really changed the human being.
Hmm.
It's a flavor of the season. Suddenly you will see कि family films are back. Suddenly you will see Priyadarshan films and Anis Bazmi films are back, and I'm guaranteeing you this.
Hmm.
You will see it very soon. And
Hmm.
then, so market, what it does is, see, artists don't do it.
Yeah.
This is done by market. So market में जो आदमी बैठा होता है वो कहता है यार अच्छा ये इस तरह की फिल्म चल गई, ऐसी 4 फिल्में और बनाओ. उस 4 को देख के 40 और फिल्में बन जाती हैं. So suddenly the whole market, the whole calendar is filled with one kind of films. That's why it's important. And I always say this, the kind of films are right now have become the norm. Try and make a film which is not within the norm, which
Hmm.
is different from it, because that time is coming soon, you
Right.
know. So that's what I that's how I see it. It's not that suddenly human beings have changed and now we are only going to like for the rest of eternity or whatever. We are going to like only action. No, it's not that. We're
Hmm.
going to like very tender films also. We're going to like musicals also. We are going to like absurd comedies also, slapsticks also, everything, because they are all part of art. They
Absolutely.
should be there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so looking at the future now, it's interesting because you've been part of Subedaar and you've been a part of even films earlier as well, like Nayak. And I think this whole idea of one man, confronting a system or fighting back seems to be also coming more into fruition. And I think you know exactly what I'm referring to when I say future projects, because it's been in the headlines for so much. But I think obviously you're going to be in King with Shah Rukh Khan, and obviously that film is very highly awaited, and I'm pretty sure there's not much you can shed light on that, and I won't even compel you to either because I respect the limitations that are there. But I think what I would love to know is that I think working on such stories right now, like we were mentioning actioners, and I think it just makes sense that I've asked this question because we were mentioning that. Uh, I think having evolved so much as an artist and kind of had this gamut of experience and uh you know life sort of stuff that you've witnessed about life so much at this point and doing a film like King in today's day and age, And clearly there's a big appetite for that, and rightly so as well. I mean, it's always great to see Shah Rukh Khan beating up a bunch of bad guys. So what I think, how has your sort of sensibility or maybe approach maybe evolved as an actor into doing roles like a Subedaar, like a king, like like that sort of a story, basically.
So first of all, I did King uh, simply because it's Shah Rukh. Because Shah Rukh is such a lovely person. You
Yeah.
just can't say, you just want to be with him. It really doesn't matter what character you are playing. He has such wonderful aura. Secondly, about when you were talking about violence or somebody's choice as an art, like my choices about art or the kind of stories I like.
Right.
You have to understand, it's not that I do not like other kind of films.
Of course.
It is out of my talent or it is out of my capacity to make a Subedar, let's say, for example,
Hmm.
or it is out of my capacity to work in a series called Golmaal, or many more films which are very which are slapstick, high humor, big laughters. It's not that I don't watch them and I don't laugh. I really at times think why I do not have the talent to do that, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
So, but as an actor, so King is not made by me.
Yeah.
King, there is a director who's directing the film, and he's a very wonderful director.
Yeah, definitely.
So when they approached me and they said, do it, so when I did it, I completely followed the instinct of the director. That what he said, that this scene is like this and this character is like that, I followed it. And this is very simple.
Hmm.
So there is no conflict or there is no clash there.
Of
Huh.
course.
I mean, if somebody suddenly tells me, I mean, I can't imagine. Though I'm an avid fan of James Bond. You know, I love James Bond. But if you tell me to write a James Bond film, I my pen will not move much. You know, so that doesn't stop me from enjoying the film. I in fact wait for James Bond.
Yeah, of course. But it's interesting. You know what? I'm so glad you mentioned this actually, because I've often toyed with this idea that being a good actor does not mean versatility. See, versatility is an added layer, it's an added advantage, but that still doesn't like mean that you're not good enough at your like, oh my God, I'm so glad that you said this because I've been toying with this idea for a while actually, because लोग अक्सर कहते हैं कि this person can do this and then that and that, and which is great, which absolutely is brilliant, but that doesn't mean that's a limitation on the artist. Do you know what I mean to say? And
Yeah.
I love what you said there actually about that.
Yes, and I'm through your podcast, I would like to tell everyone out there, I would love to play James Bond.
Absolutely, why not? No, but
and
seriously, why not?
and I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I mean it. How wonderful a Bond will be like this.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's like who decides कि क्या चलता है क्या
Yeah,
नहीं
correct.
चलता है. You know, like you said, बस आर्ट से मतलब है और अच्छा प्रोडक्ट से मतलब और अच्छा स्टोरी
Correct.
बताना है. But one thing I will say about Siddharth Anand though, about King, and I just want to say this because I what I love the most about him as a filmmaker is his narrative arcs about redemption. The characters
Yes.
that really learn from life and they kind of try to rectify that mistake. That second innings that he often represents in his movies. I love that so much about him. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I'm very excited for King. And I think it's going to be really, really special for sure.
No, the King is something else. I mean, my experience in that film has been wonderful. I'll cherish it for the rest of my life. It's Shah Rukh and Siddharth and everyone,
Yeah, of course.
such a wonderful unit.
Definitely no. Well, I think it's going to be incredible, and obviously, hopefully, whenever there's a green light, we can hopefully speak about that at length as well. But no, honestly, sort of, it's been such a pleasure. I cannot tell you, this has been so deeply satisfying. I think and
Thank you.
I think, you know, when you speak with someone who is so uh passionate about cinema, but passionate about life and has that vivacious energy, I think by default, that just really translates into the conversation. I think we're so privileged to have had you and to have been able to host you as well. So thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you.
It's really
Thank you
appreciate.
so much.
Right. Well, thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. It was wonderful here.